Good morning, Justin. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rich. How are you, man?
I'm living the dream up here on the plateau, man. You have had a hell of a ride the last week and a half, haven't you?
It's been a crazy couple days. Sure has.
Well, that's going to be today's story, man. We're gonna dig into it. I've been trying to contact you during the storm, and obviously you were off the net for a while, and didn't know if you were alive or dead there for a little
Yeah,
bit because I was watching the stuff coming out of there, man. I'm like, man,
man. We don't realize how dependent. I mean, I guess in some way we do. How dependent we are on cellular communications. Being able to message somebody pretty much instantly, pick up the phone and call them, text them a picture, whatever. That is still not fully back. It's coming back. My internet at home. I came home last night. And my internet was on, and I could not believe it. I expected it to be out for weeks, but my internet was back on at my house. And if you can believe it or not, I'm an AT&T customer for cell. Verizon is still down. So
wow,
I got real lucky having AT&T because I lost service Friday afternoon about 6 p.m. and it was off for a little over 24 hours and came back. And I mean, I'm talking streaming YouTube, talking on the phone, whatever. And Verizon is still down, except for little pockets where they've set up portable towers. And you can see where they are because people are parked all along the side of the road, doing all their messaging and stuff.
yeah. So we got some folks on. Will Rhodes is on. So good morning, Rich and Justin. Calling number 2269. My brother Jeff Brown is on down there in beautiful Key West. He said, hope everyone is well and safe. John Shriver out there in Yukon, Oklahoma. So today's show is going to be about Justin is a member of a very, very professional search and rescue team in North Carolina, and we'll leave it at that. And he's going to share some of his experiences with us. He also wrote a really amazing blog post, which is in links in today's show notes. But before we get into the kind of nuts and bolts of the meat of this specific disaster that Justin worked, I'm going to share some of my experiences from the managing the overall disaster operations, and then Justin's going to take us into the boots on the ground, swift water rescues, doing ambulance calls in his POV, all the crazy stuff that he just had to do. So I want to give some people some things to think about. Now, the following is based on a lot of variables when you start looking at is an event coming, and I'm going to ask Justin to start there when they were activated and what happened. So,
Well, so this was no surprise. Everybody knew this was coming, and we had a similar event in 2021 that destroyed 700 homes, killed 5 people, closed countless businesses, pretty much shut down the area for a couple of weeks. So our county emergency managers were very much on top of it. They requested resources from all over the state and all over the country. Currently have teams or have had teams from Massachusetts, Maryland, all the M states, as far away as San Diego, Detroit, Ohio, Indiana, Texas. And this is ambulance crews, search and rescue crews, water rescue task forces. We have had the gamut, as well as emergency managers. People in the IMT staff are from all over the state, all over the country, because our county, kind of knew. I got to hand it to them. They kind of saw this coming, requested the appropriate resources well in advance. They did voluntary evacuations of certain areas. And once we get into the water rescue part of this, we can talk about that a little bit more. But they're definitely on top of it. So Thursday night, or by Wednesday night, they had canceled school and all that good stuff. Thursday night, they called us in around, I can't remember what time they put it out, but we were going to meet at 5 o'clock. We did all night long. We just, got ready, moved to our various staging points and tried to sleep a little bit and didn't do a great job of that. And then Friday morning, it kind of broke loose.
okay, so I'm glad you stopped it there. So for those that don't know, Justin's a former Marine Reconnaissance, Force Reconnaissance, and MARSOC plank owner, which is Marine Corps Special Operations. And now he is in his current life, and then he was a OGA contractor for years overseas, but in his current life, he is a member of EMS and on like I said, a very, very professional search and rescue team. And you're on the special operations end of it, correct?
Yeah, so I'm a paramedic with EMS. Our EMS agency has a special operations team that we've got a couple members that do the SWAT side of things. Most everybody does wilderness type stuff, things like that. Things we're trained a little better for things that fall outside of the normal, drive the ambulance to the house, then to the hospital kind of situation. I am on a search and rescue team. It is very professional. It's highly trained, very well managed, and we also have a Swiftwater component of I don't know about 8 or 10 people who are water rescue technicians in the TR world, the technical rescue world, and I'm on that as well. Honestly, didn't really think I'd ever have to use it like we did, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from right now. And also, I'm well, hopefully we start back Monday. I'm a law enforcement student, candidate, cadet, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Justin talked about pre-positioning of assets, right? And that he was, one of those boots on the ground assets. I would tell you from my perspective as a disaster relief director and assistant director, that's exactly what we would do. Number one, we're looking at 24 to 48 hours. We want to pre-position shelter, trailers, food, water, and other assets, as well as nursing staff, food service workers, shelter staff, all this stuff. Get them into the schools, shut the schools down, churches, get the churches and all the people that are trained, and then send our trained staff to the emergency operations center to act as liaisons and get the communication lines open so that all parties have updated phone trees, distribution trees, etc. And then we need to set up our command staff somewhere, and call in all our staff leads, whether it's logistics, operations, sheltering, nursing, volunteer staffing. That's the people that make sure we have enough staff, disaster assessment teams, etc. You got to block off hotel rooms if you're bringing people in, and you want to make sure that you select the hotel that's above the floodplain and have evacuation routes, and everybody's got a map in case comms go down so they know where they're going to go, with alternate positioning. Now, does that sound like stuff that you guys did?
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So our incident command center is at the sheriff's office. That's where, Rich, did you guys use the ICS system?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
And can you explain what ICS is, please?
It's the incident command system. It's the National Incident Management System, NIMS, is what created this whole thing. It came out of the fire service, I believe, but basically it's a system of managing and I mean, anything from a big traffic accident all the way up to something like this. One person is the incident commander, and that person may rotate out every operational period. Just, due to, this is a lot of wear and tear on your body and your psyche doing this stuff day in and day out. And under him, you have all these, like Rich was explaining, all these section chiefs, logistics, planning, finance, operations, safety, whatever. And then under them, they're, try to keep a span of control of, what is it, like 5 or 6 people. And then, it's just basically a big flow chart, big decision tree with, those main sections in charge of, personnel, or how do we get money to pay for Lowe's to bring plywood out, or how do pay for Chick-fil-A to bring sandwiches to all these people, or whatever. Yeah, that's what we did, Rich. And that first Friday night, we were initially at a elementary school. Like, obviously there's no one at the school, so piled us all in the gymnasium, and then a couple of us broke off and went to a local firehouse and hung out, just to be, so all our boats and water equipment's not in one single place, because we didn't really know where it was going to hit. And then
Right.
Actually, we needed the most water stuff in the areas that nobody predicted it would be. Some of the highest ground in the county, and our county seat flooded for the first time ever. Actually, I was riding a boat down the streets of the town there. But anyway, I'm sidetracking. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. But yeah, we like you said, brought in incident managers, had a command staff, had a centralized location where they were in the middle of the county, pushed out resources so they're already pre-staged, and that includes food, water, fuel, whatever may be needed.
And if you want to, FEMA offers free classes. I don't think you have to be in any certain billet. You can go on FEMA.gov, if I remember correctly, and take all the ICS classes. And so if you want to know what they do and how they do it, those classes are free.
It is FEMA.gov, and so the ones that everybody has to take in emergency service is ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800. I think the ones in the middle are, some of those are actual in-person classes, but the rest of those are online, and they explain to you how this incident command system works. And if you're, with the exception of law enforcement, if you're in any kind of emergency services, they all, and I think our law enforcement's kind of getting on board, but they all go to this ICS system when anything more than, a handful of apparatus and personnel are in play. It just makes everybody go ahead.
You got to have the same playbook, right? You got to speak the same language. So getting fire on the same language as the law enforcement and rescue on the same language as the fire, and everybody talking the same language and reporting to one incident commander is crucial. And the videos do a great job of, here's a time where the incident command worked great. And I think they discuss it about relative to a bridge collapse, but so let's talk about the next piece. So you need to communicate with your partners, other disaster nonprofits, FEMA. Like TEMA is what it is in Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. FEMA obviously is Federal Emergency Management Agency. Churches, schools, the places that you're going to use as shelters. You got to get keys to those places so you can get in. Points of contact. Ensure everyone is ready to fulfill the things that they signed up for in the blue skies, as far as like their memorandum of understanding. I'm going to do this in the disaster. You're going to do that. And sometimes the capabilities change. And like, brother, Bill signed that MOU. I don't have a clue. What did Bill say we were going to do? That happens, right?
Yeah, it does. And a perfect example of that is, I think we had 6 fire departments out of our, I don't know, let's say arbitrarily 12 fire departments in the county. 6 of those buildings flooded. Some of them were destroyed. We have now fire departments who are, all their apparatus are parked in a church parking lot, and they're living and working out of a, Base X tent, due to that memorandum of understanding that if you need our property, you can use it.
Yeah. So you got to communicate there. You got to communicate with media. So all this stuff is pre-event. When the event happens, just like Justin said, you can do all the great pre-planning you want, but then you go, oh, the weather decided to go and flood this area.
Right.
Crap. Yeah. It's never done that before. Well, that's Murphy, right? So you got to communicate with media. You've got to start fundraising, as well as you want to have the media be able to push information to the community. You want them to tell them, like, this is the location of shelters. This is where the food pantries are, donation points, etc. What channels to use, websites, points of contact, times to stay tuned for updates. So we're going to release an update every 4 hours on 97.5, or all 97.5 is going to do is tell them to go to the website. But if the power's down, then that doesn't do a whole lot of good, does it?
Yeah. If I can speak to that for just a second. So we have a public information officer in the county who works for emergency management. She has done a bang up job, just a phenomenal job of keeping the public informed of what's going on. So she partnered with a local radio station, I assume probably prior to this disaster. And if there's one thing I would have liked to have known going into this, is that was going to be the touch point for information. I didn't know that. I'm not saying it wasn't put out, but I wasn't aware of it until this thing started. But she's been going to the radio station every day, sitting down and having a little morning briefing with the station. The station also replays the press releases that are, that are given out. And she'll usually go at night and sit down with the DJ and talk for about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, just about what's going on, answer people's question of where can we get this? What about that? What's going on here in this area? She's done a phenomenal job of that. And I would say, if there's one, this is a lesson I'm taking out of this. Having a radio actually is important. Like some of these prepper lessons that it's kind of like, that's seems kind of silly. Like having a radio, just an AM FM radio that runs on batteries is kind of important. I drastically underestimated how important that was going to be. And the other thing is knowing what that station is going to be. There's also a big, kind of regional station that's given a lot of updates. But if you want the really nitty gritty, nuts and bolts, specific stuff of what's going on in the county, that is the place to find it. And, our PI has done a phenomenal job of that. But you need to have and you can go sit in your car and listen to the radio. But you need to have know where that's going to be coming from and what station. And the times of day is also helpful too, because I got kind of frustrated the first day. Even though I kind of know what's going on, I wanted to hear what they were putting out, because I turned the radio on. It's just like music for like an hour. I'm like, man, the sign says tune to this station. So knowing what times stuff goes out, knowing what station, and having I hate to sit in my car and run the battery down. That's using a lot of battery power to listen to the radio, and it limits what else I can do. So having a little portable FM radio is AM FM radio that runs on batteries, pretty crucial, I would say.
Or hand crank. I mean, hell.
Solar, whatever. Yeah.
And you can pick those up for probably $50, but so now we got Justin. He's there sleeping a restless night, I would imagine, with all the other staff just waiting for whatever's about to come, right?
Yeah, it was a very restless night. Me and one other teammate in the cab of a pickup, trying to lay front seat, back seat. It was miserable. Wind just rocking the truck, rain slamming down, and we knew it was coming. Like the river was already just about at the banks when we pulled into the fire station that night. So the first call goes out at like 6:30, opposite end of the county of where we are. We don't really know what's going on. We don't have great comms with the task force people that are being dispatched. We're just attached to them. So all Friday morning from about 6 a.m. To about 2 p.m., it was just rescue after rescue after rescue. So I basically, in my head, categorize this as two types of people. You have people who drive into intersections that are full of water, that it's kind of their fault, right? You still gotta pull them off. And then you got people that live in area, or people who are, in places that they should have evacuated. And it's like, you're making us risk our safety to come get you. And let me talk about that for just a second. In a flood, the safety thing, it's like, oh, it's, the water's not moving that fast. The water's whatever. Floods are extremely dangerous because you don't know what's under the water. You can't see under the water. So you might, step off on what you think is a road and there's nothing there, or there's boards with nails in it washing down that you step out on, or any number of debris. There's all sorts of debris in the water, and you can't see in the water because floods are first and foremost a hazardous materials event. There's diesel fuel, there's fertilizer, there's raw sewage, and that's a huge component of why flood water is dark brown. There's like sewage just goes everywhere. These whatever your sewage system is gets overwhelmed, and all that stuff starts coming to the surface. So you're out there in it. It just is what it is. Also, you have things moving under the water. So at times in some very deep water, there were tractor trailers floating down the river. There were Connex boxes floating down, or not down the river, like down the road through the town. So these are dangerous events, and you get people out in these. It's very risky. Rich knows I was very nervous about actually doing the Swiftwater stuff. So, and then there's the other category of people. We had people who had no reason whatsoever to believe that they might be flooded. People on high ground where creeks went out of the banks, and the road turned into. I saw water that was moving fast enough to actually move a fire engine full of water. Wow. Just incredible force, incredible power. It's difficult to comprehend how powerful water is until you see an event like this.
You and I are both combat vets, and I don't know how you'll answer this, but I would rather be in combat than a really bad disaster.
Yes. Yeah. It's, I would agree.
And why would you agree? And then I'll say why I would say
that. So I think I'm far more trained for one than the other. So I feel like even though I feel like I have more of a sense of control. And also with this specifically, we weren't in the team that we had planned to be in. We were in ones and twos with, all these statewide agencies that were responding because they knew we were going to need water stuff. So that was kind of, that it was kind of disconcerting at first. Also, there was kind of some trust issues. They didn't really trust us. I didn't really trust them, whatever. But it ended up working out. And, the water rescue curriculum is the same in 48 states. So we all spoke the same language. We all, like, once we got into it, we all knew what to do. It was fine. But those are two of the reasons for me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, combat is chaos, lack of communication, blah, 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 all the things that disasters is. But like you said, there's no real enemy. The enemy is everything.
Yeah.
The enemy is, and let me go into that, because once a disaster hits, everything is obviously fluid as hell. The nurses are going to fight each other. The state nurses didn't get along with the Red Cross nurses. Estranged husbands are going to start showing up at shelters because he knows his kids are there, and they're going to threaten staff. You got to call cops if the cops are available. If not, you've got the deacons of the church that are acting as shelter workers or dealing with some drunk, pissed off, drug-addled husband. Trucks are going to arrive with supplies that you neither need, want, or have a place to put the stuff that they're bringing in. Like, who said we needed this here? And there's no one there to offload them. You got a bunch of elderly women that are from the church that are acting as shelter workers, and they're like, Rich, we have 70 pallets of water just showed up. What do you mean to do with them? And I'm like, bro, I've got 1,000 other things to deal with.
Yeah.
You got shelter workers getting romantic with people they shouldn't be, causing issues. Pet owners can't bring in their pets, and now they're pissed off. And then some sympathetic shelter worker is going to let it happen. Oh, maybe just this little dog. Then it's going to attack a child. Now we got an ambulance run we don't need. Virus.
You want to talk about shelters for a second?
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. I got two more points. Viruses are going to break out. The feds and the state are going to start fighting, and rumors are going to swirl on who did this and who should have done that. Nonprofits are going to be stuck in the middle. It is absolute freaking bedlam once the actual disaster gets hold. It doesn't matter how well you're prepositioned, how well you're supplied, you're going to have things crop up that just, in combat is pretty simple. You do an op, you come back, and you prep and reload and rearm, refit for the next thing. And here it's just like day on, stay on, 24/7. It's just a relentless grind, man. That's what my experience was like.
Yeah. So I will say, overall, we have not experienced a lot of that. So I'll talk about the shelter thing in a minute, but just support and generally, just running this thing generally, we have had tremendous, just unbelievable support from the community. It's almost impossible to overstate. And I'm a little embarrassed. I haven't spent a dime since Friday. I got a couple things Friday because I didn't know if I'd be able to get back to the grocery store or whatever. Got some fresh fruits and stuff because I didn't know when I'd be able to replenish that. But other than that, I've not spent a dime. People have, at EMS and all the fires, pretty much all the fire stations, as far as I know, people are showing up like, hey, we got all, showed up with basically a pallet load of peanuts and beef jerky and whatever, like, here's snacks for you guys. We've got people who came in from the community and said, we've got power and water, and there's no way we can sit here while you guys are, out here working and not do something. So they're coming in and cooking breakfast every morning and cooking dinner every night, which is so unbelievably helpful. Like, I live alone, so I don't want to have to come home and then be like, what am I making for dinner? Like, it's super nice to just be able to make a plate, eat, and go home. Or if I'm working 24, to not have to worry about like where we're going to go, try to find somewhere that's open and takes cash, or my partner needs a place that takes card or whatever. I can't overstate how helpful that is. People are, I don't want to say too much help, but people are volunteering to help in every way imaginable. It's unreal. And a lot of the out-of-state workers, many of them have said, this is the most hospitable place we have ever been deployed to. We actually have, and Rich was talking about putting people in hotels or whatever. We have a lakeside resort here that always turns into kind of the center of gravity for these big emergency things. It has a huge dining hall. It has a couple hotels on the property. It has some, it's almost barrack style buildings, and everybody gets put in those. And they're like, usually we're in like a church basement on a cot, but we actually, me and my partner are in a room. We can, with beds, we can actually sleep at night. And so the outpouring of support from the community, from people outside the area. I've had 2 people offer to land an airplane here for me, which is pretty incredible. But people are like, hey, how do I send care packages? My wife's a nurse or a, whatever. How can she volunteer? I know so-and-so is a carpenter, love to come help rebuild. I got a buddy with a skid steer, wants to come in and help clear roads, whatever. It's unbelievable the amount of support we've gotten. And overall, there's been some friction. I'd be lying if I said there was none, but overall it's been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, thank you for giving us your take on that. And to be clear, again, at the director level of a disaster relief operation, all the bad shit bubbles to me.
Right.
So, and I do everything I can to shield the frontline worker from all the drama that's going on that I'm trying to manage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right, man. Just the food stuff. We had several places that turned into food kitchens for disaster relief workers, and it was like, and they would push that food out to them. And I mean, it is amazing to see what humans can do to help each other. Now, let me tell you a couple of things that, in my opinion, in the disaster relief operations makes things very effing worse. And that's people that don't need to be on the road, out on the road. Why are they there? They're checking on Memo because they didn't set up a nearby neighbor that can walk over and check on her. They're just out there looking at the damage that happened. Oh, look, the Circle K got blown away. They're out picking up last minute supplies because they weren't prepared. People that didn't plan are now running out to get gas, water, toilet paper, kerosene, propane, getting the crap that they should have got earlier when they said it's coming this way. People that want to help. Now, this is people that can make things worse. People that I want to help. I have some old blankets, some cases of water, old clothes. They get Memo station wagon and then they hit a blocked road or worse. Now they require rescue, like you talked about. Just stay home, man. Take the old coat to Goodwill once it's over, but do not take it to the disaster site unless, and this is a big caveat, unless the media expressly ask it to be brought somewhere on
and
the
to
behalf.
be clear, we do not need coats and blankets right now.
No. So unless the media said, look, the American Red Cross needs blankets. We're looking for 1,500 blankets. Take it to the church parking lot at 1,900 on Tuesday. So you have a very specific agency, a very specific place at a very specific drop-off site. Other than that, they're not logistically prepared to handle all the old crap that you want to clean out of your attic. Last thing, the things that make things incredibly worse, people doing dumb and dangerous crap. Now is not the time to freaking take your 4-wheel drive and let your buddy water ski behind it on a road. It's just stupid. Sit in your house, eat ramen. Don't be a drain or a drag on the local logistics or search and rescue folks, the ambulance crews, EMS, fire, rescue. They got better stuff to do. If you're a reasonable, prudent person and you've had some level of preparedness, you should be able to sit on your hands for 96 hours. That's some of the things that I've seen makes it worse. What do you think?
So I'm writing an article about this, and this is I'm still a Rich Brown quote, but when it's time to perform, the time to prepare is over. When the storm hits is not the time to be like, oh man, I need to run to the grocery store. I need to go to the hardware store and get some propane. You should have all that shit, man. Like it's no secret that bad things happen everywhere in this country, whether it's tornadoes, snowstorms, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, whatever. Bad things happen everywhere in this entire country. Maybe a different thing where you live. You need to be prepared to hunker down for 72, 96 hours at a minimum. And that means everything you need to heat the food you need to eat, the paper plates you need to eat it off of. Cleaning supplies are a big thing we're in a shortage of right now. Like you need to have the stuff you need for, 3, 4, I would say a week. If you can lock it down for a week, man, you like it is such a big help. And so Saturday, the day after, Friday morning, we're out trying to rescue people, and we're all talking, just amazed by the number of cars on the road. There's cars on the road everywhere. It's like, where are you people going in the middle of the storm, right? Like rain is still pelting down. We're having to, like, in these emergency vehicles, having to box around down trees, around flooded intersections, around whatever. What are people out? It blows my mind. We're all like, what are these people doing? And they're clogging up the roads for us. We're having a difficult time. And it was, there were almost more calls than all the water rescue teams in the county could respond to. There was I don't want to get into specifics, but there was one fatality that nobody could get to in time. And a lot of that was traffic. A lot of that was, we're on the way to one rescue and come to an intersection that's 6 feet underwater with a dude sitting on top of his car. And it's like, all right, let's stop and get this guy off his car. And literally, as we're paddling this guy back, a minivan has gone around. It's a 5-lane road, has gone around all the emergency vehicles blocking the road, just barrels into the intersection. It's like, dude, really? Like, did you not see all the red lights, all the water, the car floating in the middle of the intersection? So it has been that is incredibly frustrating. The amount of people that are out and about. And then Saturday, difficult even getting around because every gas station has a line that's backed into the road half a mile out of it. And mostly it's just for people that need gas to sit there in line at the gas station and then ride around doing God knows what. And I realize some people have, I talked to some people when I was giving out water Monday. They're like, oh, my parents live over here. Her parents live over here. And like, they're elderly and we have no phone service, whatever. But like you said, being able to have somebody that like, hey, if it hits the fan, can you check on Mima and make sure, I've set this stuff aside for her, like, can you, something like that. But yeah, the just being out on the roads to be out on the roads is it creates more problems than it solves. It creates a lot of problems actually.
Well, and if you have the ability to, okay, there's a couple things here. If you have the ability to leave, let's say I know it's a mathematical certainty this thing is going to hit, and you have the means to get 150 miles out of the disaster area before it happens. Great. You're not going to be a drain on the community. Take Mama with you. Load up her little chihuahua in a damn station wagon and get out of the area before the disaster hits. You're one less problem for EMS to deal with.
Yes. Or especially if you have elderly, I mean, people with health problems are not getting, like, our standard of care is different now than it was 2 days ago. And it was very different 3 days ago than it is during normal operations. Like, you did not get the medical care that you expect to get in the United States. It's just, it just is what it is. And people with who are dependent on oxygen, let me tell you, if you smoke, you need to stop fucking smoking.
Amen,
I'm sorry to be blunt, but you need to stop. If you're oxygen dependent or headed down that path, you need to fucking fix it. And this isn't for me. This is for you. So we touched on the shelter thing, and I want to talk about that a little bit, but almost our entire shelter now is full of people on oxygen concentrators who don't have power to run their concentrators. A huge amount of what we did Saturday and Sunday is run oxygen tanks to people who were out of oxygen. And that's like, I don't care, whatever, that's my job. But for you, like, do you really want to be that person that's like, man, I hope an ambulance can get here, or so-and-so can get here and bring me an oxygen tank that'll last 4 hours, and then I got to worry about it again in 4 hours. That's probably not the situation you want to find yourself in.
You know what I saw too on that health compromise thing? For one, that's something that you can fix yourself, with just getting off the damn cigarettes and vapes and quitting all that craziness. But like if pharmaceuticals, if you need pharmaceuticals to maintain your life, then don't have the shit scattered all over your house. Have it in one centralized bag, a gallon-sized bag you can grab and go and throw it in a duffel bag and run. Because when you get to the shelter, now our nursing staff is like, wait a minute, this guy needs insulin, he needs this, he needs that, and we're trying to get. And
pharmacies are running like, we're kind of getting back to normal, but pharmacies, our hospital was out of some medications, very, very close on others, and pharmacies were running out of stuff, and they weren't able to run insurance, and they weren't able to pull prescriptions off a computerized system. So if you're dependent on a medication, like Rich said, have it, don't have to be like, oh crap, we got to go all of a sudden because we didn't think water would get up here and now it is, and then have to go hunt it or leave it behind, have it and have a supply of it.
That's just it, man. People show up at the shelter with unrealistic expectations. Like, I'm just going to give you my list and you're just going to hand it to me. Where the hell am I supposed to get it from? Pull it out of my rear end? I don't have it. Right. So you had it at your house, bring it with you. You're creating, and that's another thing. Like in war, I shoot one guy in the pelvis, and now he's a casualty, and he's sucking up 2 or 3 people, resources. Helo's got to come in to get him out, or we got to bring in trucks. It's the same thing when you have Memo that needs her oxygen, and she's got 2 little dogs, and she's got all these medications. It's taken 5, 6, 7, 8 dudes to get her out of that area to the shelter. I mean, that's one freaking person. Now multiply that times, 0.1% of the population, and you've knocked out almost your entire resources, local resources anyway, until regional assets get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're in your 60s and you've smoked your whole life, probably a lot of that damage is done. But if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you need to quit, man. Like that's the bottom line. Also, like one person in particular that we had to stop, get boats off the truck, and go get out of a off the top of his car was going to a gas station to get cigarettes. So,
Can't make this up.
You want to talk about shelters for a minute, Rich?
Please wear it out.
So we have one, and I like this is a sample size of one. I don't know how else it would work elsewhere in the country, elsewhere in the state, whatever. We have one. It's at an old National Guard Armory building, like basically, cots are laid out in the gymnasium. I haven't been there in a couple days, but by all accounts, things have been running pretty smoothly. So they have a couple deputies up there around the clock. They've got basically, times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, quiet hours after 10 p.m. How do I say this? So pets, they have an animal control employee up there 24/7. They've got a downstairs area. You can bring your pets. They have to be in a kennel. You have to have a bowl for them. You have to have food for them and a leash and stuff to clean up their poop. So if you have a pet, I would, I'd recommend having a bag ready to go with that stuff in it. So if you have to go, you can grab that stuff and go. I think they may have some kennels if someone doesn't have a kennel to put their pet in. But basically the way it works is during the day, you can take your dog outside, walk it around, spend time with it, or your cat, whatever. At quiet hours, though, it has to be back in the kennel. It's back in the kennel until 8 o'clock the next morning or whatever. So you can bring pets. The spectrum of people in there, you have a high percentage of medical, people that need intensive medical care. The shelter, hasn't had a lot of problems, but this is not where you want to be. You don't want to be sleeping in a cot 3 feet away from another cot. A big percentage of the people in here, and not to belittle them or denigrate them, are what we kind of call frequent flyers in EMS. They're kind of people with maybe mental health concerns or addiction problems, or something like that are, maybe not people you want to be bedding down right beside every night. And I took some people from a multi-million-dollar retirement home to the shelter. I'm back in there a few hours later, and they're laying on their cots next to Sue, Bob, and Billy that we see every 3 times a week for because they're passed out on a sidewalk or something. Shelter's probably not where you want to be. So if you can evacuate, if you your home's at risk for whatever, and like Rich was saying, if you can get out of the area, shelter's not where you want to end up. Even though ours is run pretty smoothly. Now at this point, 7 days in, the majority of the shelter is taken up with people that need oxygen. But yeah, if you stay out of that damn shelter, you probably want to.
Well, not only do you not want to be laying next to him, but you definitely don't want your daughter laying next to him. And again, there's in some places the shelter staff will have adult males sleeping over here, and and females over here. And so familial integrity can get disrupted, and it can cause a lot of problems. Stay out of the shelter, folks. The people that need it need to have it. It's not for people like me and you listening to it. It's for people that are already compromised in some way, whether it's mentally, drugs, addiction. Let me tell you what does help. I've got a few things that from my former position as a disaster relief director, people staying home and staying safe with your neighbors and helping each other. That helps. People self-rescuing with your own prepared first aid kits and emergency response kits and pharmaceuticals, repairing your own roof to stop a leak, not calling in to get some roofer on the road. It's going to charge you 3 or 4 times as much. So have tarps and ropes to stop the leaks when penetration happens on your roof line. clearing your own driveway, having a chainsaw or some other
Yeah.
means come along to clear your own driveway. Because if you do need EMS, you don't want to create another problem for them. If you can get that debris out of the thing so they can get memo out of there, all the better. Lastly, as far as what really, 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 really helps, and I cannot bang this drum enough. Everybody, I want to give something. I'm gonna do. Okay, here's what you need to do, man. Give money.
Yeah.
Money is the great lubricant in a disaster relief operation, and give money without strings attached. One of my jobs in a disaster relief was, for some reason, in my position, fundraising fell under me. So all of a sudden, all the Red Cross fundraising arm, bang, falls under my purview, and I'm tracking how much money we're raising. And it's never enough. I'm just telling you right now. And sometimes people call in like, Rich, I got a donation. It's, $750,000, but it can only go to this particular county. He doesn't want his money going to another county. And I'm like, bro, what are you're killing me, man. How
Yeah,
can
I don't know how to do
discern
that. Yeah.
I don't know how to do it either.
Yeah.
So time, if you want to volunteer your time and, provided, here's the caveat, that local EMA or some other organization has a need and has broadcast that specific need, specific meetup locations, points, times, you got a point of contact. If you think I'm going to go down to the shelter and volunteer, it's not going to happen because, if you say during the event, I'm just going to go down there and help out because I'm a member of that church. Well, guess what? You got to be vetted. We have to run, when I was with the American Red Cross, we have to run background checks on everybody because why? Because I don't want some pedophile and knowing that there's a shelter with vulnerable people in it. And now suddenly I'm letting this, sex offender work in there because I can't vet him during the disaster because the power's out. So if you really, really, really want to help, become a volunteer now. Get the training now before the event.
Yeah.
And let me say that again. Money is the biggest thing you can do if you really want to help. And I'll give you some examples, man. When the sheltering is over, now all of a sudden it's the cleanup, right? And the church that's been amazing just to clean the drapes and treat it as a biohazard scene because we'd have norovirus outbreaks. Everything's got to be steam cleaned and sanitized. It costs, in one case, $70,000 just to clean all the pews and the drapes. And we had to throw a bunch of stuff away and incinerate some in biohazard bags. I need money to do that. I don't need your coat. I don't need your water bottles. I need money.
I want to go back to the first thing you said, that and stay home and stay safe and focus on safe. Medical care, I touched on this earlier. It's not what you normally expect. And I wrote about this in that article, but we had a pediatric head trauma kid riding a four-wheeler, thrown off, had a basilar skull fracture, just pouring blood out of his right ear, 2 subdural hematomas. And we had to take that kid to the local hospital. It is a level 4 trauma center, which it's basically only a trauma center by dint of being a hospital. It is a small community hospital. Normally, I would lose my job for taking that patient there because they need to go to a level 2 or level 1 trauma center. You may not get the health care that you need. If you saw your leg off with a chainsaw, you're probably not going to get that world-class award-winning healthcare. So you need to be prepared to take care, like Rich said, take care of some stuff on your own, but you also need to be safe. If you're going to be, if you have a driveway where you're going to have to cut your way out of it, you need to have chaps, you need to have, the appropriate protective equipment. And I would say it probably wouldn't hurt to actually get a class on how to run a chainsaw. I know everybody listening to this has run a chainsaw their whole life, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it, to run a chainsaw. And just by luck or the grace of God or whatever, you've gotten away with it for 40 years. Doesn't mean you're going to get away from, doesn't mean you're not going to get hurt at some point. My brother-in-law was a logger for many, many years and had a little mishap with a chainsaw that almost cost him his leg. So, and that's a guy that does it professionally. So whatever you're doing, ride a four-wheeler, to move supplies from A to B, cutting trees, whatever, you need to have the appropriate safety equipment and I would say some training to use it. Just like a gun that we talk about all the time on here is almost more of a liability to you without training. You need training in all these high risk activities that you may participate in after a disaster.
Yeah, well said, brother. Well said. So I'm going to go through some comments that came in. One of the comments came in from, I won't say who it was, but I believe he's still on here, but it was a great question or / comment and I want to address it. He said, Rich, I just heard from my sister in North Carolina that the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency is taking relief supplies that have been donated to churches, claiming that they, TEMA, can manage the distribution better. Have you heard anything about this? Yeah, they can do it better. There's no question about it, because the churches don't have the ability to turn on blue lights and stuff like that, and they don't have the ability to call in helicopters, and so they have.
And a lot of these people can't get to churches. Their driveways are washed down the river, and we still have uncontacted people, and we're trying to take cases of water and whatever as we go out, and so we can leave stuff there. I don't know about that having happened in North Carolina, but yeah, you're right. They can do it better.
Yeah, they're a hell of a lot better. And you know who does it better than FEMA, and you know who does it better than them? The DOD. So there's levels of escalation here that we have seen throughout other disaster relief operations. But anyway, I digress. One of the gentlemen that was watching earlier, I saw his name pop up. He's the owner of Appalachian Standard, which is one of our sponsors, and he's in the affected area. And he's been like, hey, if you need, come get all the, the pond is risen. You come get all the water you need to just flush it down your toilet. There's no need to waste good water when you just need to flush your toilet. So come get some pond water in a 5-gallon bucket. Have all you want. I saw this on the internet. I thought it was really good, Justin. He says, quote, I got stuck in South Carolina this weekend. I got news for y'all. A cashless society will fall apart without electricity. It gets weird fast. Hotels couldn't even give me a room. They couldn't even make keys or check the reservations I made online at the exact time when people needed them the most. I will never leave town without cash. I have a new respect for preppers. They aren't crazy. They are prepared. What say you on that one?
Man, I've been preaching for a year. Have $1,000 in cash in your wallet, just 10 100s folded, put back in the back little pocket of your wallet. And I haven't had to spend any money, but I've if you've looked at that blog post, you've seen lines of pictures of people in line for ATMs, and there's only been a select few ATMs that have had the combination of electricity and connectivity somehow to actually give people money. So these things have been swamped. And now I think that's kind of started to be alleviated a little bit. But in a disaster, I mean, we had people line up the other day to buy 200 generators, and 200 generators were gone like that. Gas. If you need gas for your vehicle because you didn't start out with a full tank, or gas for that generator you just bought, you're gonna need cash to pay for it. If you go to the grocery store to get food because you didn't have food at your house, you're gonna need cash to pay for it. I can't. Everybody thinks prepping, if I need cash, like if I need $1,000, society's gone so far that cash is worthless. Not true. People need freaking cash right now, like they could probably never have imagined a couple of weeks ago. I'm still on that bandwagon. Take $1,000 and have it in your house, if not in your wallet. $1,000 is a good would have. If everybody had $1,000 when this happened, no one would have been in line at ATMs. That would have alleviated such a friction point right there. And I know only a very small percentage of people are even now are going to listen to this, but man, have cash. Good Lord.
I know. And so the blog post Justin is referring to is on his amazing website, Swift, Silent, Deadly. I've got in the show notes today, you can read about, and Justin goes into all the detail and shows photographs, and there's a long line outside the ATM. And remember, for every one of the 40 or 50 people standing in that line, there's 40 or 50 cars in the parking lot, 40 people on the road.
And there were cars lined up down the road. Like it was hard to get the cars and the people. Have the cash. Like it kind of blew me away, because I drove by and I'm like, what are all those people doing over there? And then I'm like, oh, that's the credit union. Yeah.
Have it in your truck, in a hidden spot. Have it in your house. Have it on your person. Whether it's $100, $200, $1,000, start wherever you can start. I mean, if you can have 1,000, then try 2,000. If you can have 2,000, have 5. There's no reason not to have it, because eventually you're going to be in that position. Tony is on, and Tony is going to help me. We're going to create for American Warrior Society members, we're going to do a better job with our comms plans, because I realize that's my biggest deficiency. Is having a comm plan when the cell towers go out. So we're going to work on some ham radio stuff for our members. But Tony says they need to keep more money in those ATMs. I went to 5 different ones, and they all said insufficient funds. Yeah. They can only put so
Man,
much in the cassettes.
let me tell you, that one at the credit union, that thing was rocking and rolling for 3 days straight with I was like, "How does it have this much freaking money in it?" And same with the gas stations, man. There were people around the block for days and before these things running out of fuel, and now they've been, resupplied and whatever now. I just heard, that, Paige just said she was in line at the ATM and there was, like 3 cars in line and not a big deal. Gas stations now have pumps that don't have plastic bags over them and nobody in line. So I think it's things are kind of starting to ease a little bit. But like Rich said at the beginning of the show, if you can lock it down for 3, 4, 5 days, man, you can avoid most of the headaches of all this, you know, all this
A-
craziness standing in line outside the grocery store, only letting certain numbers of people in at a time, and that sort of stuff.
And it may sound counterintuitive to say you're a force multiplier by just staying at home and not being a
Yeah,
burden on the resources, but really you are, right?
yeah, absolutely. If you can not need, the fire department to come cut the trees out of your driveway, if you cannot have to burn gas to go out and get gas and food that you should already had, if you can, yeah, that's absolutely true, man. Every individual that's not out on the road is actually doing a huge part to help the situation.
Yeah. Let's see. Donald says drove to Virginia from Florida on Saturday. 2 gas stops were cash only. They had power for the pumps, but no comms with the card companies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get Tony was making a joke here. They said insufficient funds. He's meaning him. Missed
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
for a second, Tony. I want to go over one other thing here I read. Here's another post on Facebook. Quote, haven't had either a free moment of electricity or cell signal bandwidth to post since Hurricane Helene tore through Augusta, Georgia early Friday morning as a Cat 1 almost 400 miles inland. We were on the right edge of the eye and got tornadoes as well. Day 7 without power, internet, reliable cell service. Water's back with a boil advisory, and gasoline availability is finally starting to materialize without miles long lines. Multi-hour waits or gunfire. Got a front row seat for how fast civilization could break down, and the sad answer was less than a day. The satellite image below really highlights the path of total destruction. We got 8 to 10 inches of rain in a few hours, which, while destructive, pales in comparison to the biblical flooding that hit western North Carolina and East Tennessee. We are safe, didn't lose our home, unlike others in our neighborhood where a tornado came through, and are working closely with our neighbors and friends to ensure we all get through this together. 70-mile gas runs at 0 dark 30, generators and power sharing, food and supply runs for those unable to get out, and neighbor patrols to stop looting. Wow. Did you see any kind of civil disobedience, looting, anything like that?
No.
Okay, good.
Like there has been some, but it's very minimal. And everybody's like, I don't want FEMA coming here, but FEMA is paying all these, deputies from from all over the state to come up here and, you know, guard. Yeah, they're like putting a deputy at every supply point and whatever else. Um,
Can we
there's been
talk about that real quick?
yeah,
Because when you have to park a deputy at Target or Food Lion or wherever the part of the town that has power that people can get to get stuff, or you got to park them at gas stations because for whatever, that's cops that aren't on the road. That's cops that are not
yeah,
responding to calls. So again, and now the other thing, people think FEMA's they can just come in with all this shit. They come in with money. That's what FEMA
right,
comes
right,
in with.
yeah.
Uh,
Like all these out of town ambulances and police officers and whatever are not, wearing black FEMA suits and baklavas. They're uh people from other states, other counties, other whatever that are just being paid a fuck ton of overtime to be here by FEMA. That's really what FEMA shows up with. I mentioned in communications. Are you familiar with Starlink, Rich?
oh yeah, my brother has Starlink.
I had no idea this was a thing, but
No.
a FEMA helicopter, a National Guard Black Hawk landed at one of the local fire departments and said, because the fire chief had been posting like, we need a Starlink if anybody knows where to get one. Helicopter landed at the fire department, said, here's 2, and took off. And he's like, that is the craziest, based on my Facebook page. He said, post, that is the craziest thing I have ever seen. but yeah, apparently the Starlink thing is if you got the generator to power it, internet and phone service through the whole thing. We've got one guy that works with us in a super remote area who got, he had like 50 something trees over his road, so he couldn't get out. But he's like, yeah, man, I was at home watching TV and, watching the game and whatever through this whole thing. So I don't know. I may look at that as part of my comp plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, I got about 5 minutes or so with you left.
Yeah,
what are some of the other things that kind of surprised you about this event?
Oh, I don't know. This whole thing it's going to take me some time to process this whole thing. I have an article coming real soon. I'm theoretically off today. I'm on standby for the SAR team, so I may have to leave at any time, but try to work on that today of lessons learned from this thing. Have cash, have a radio, be prepared to take care of yourself medically, and don't take stupid risks or unnecessary risks, I guess. That'll, and most of you listen to this have heard that, but I don't know, man. It's going to take some time to, kind of process this. I've been at work pretty much nonstop. So after I'm going back in for a 36 tomorrow morning. So once that is done, I'm going to take a few days off and probably be back with some more thoughts on this at that point.
Yeah. And that's, again, having been in this situation, I have to temper those that I love that are like, can you believe they can't get up there? And so-and-so's cousin is stuck. And can you believe they just can't get up? I'm like, yeah, I can believe it. Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We're only people. Like it's,
I don't know what people expect. It's like they lived on a road that was 2 miles off the beaten path, and it was really cool until 2 miles of trees went down, and now they can't get out, and everybody's upset. Like, what do you want me to do? We don't have a helicopter that can go get Memo out of that house. So again, you are your own self-rescue. You are your own self-defense. It truly, man, we've been banging this drum for how long, Justin? And it's like,
yeah. Well, when this happened, and I'm like, we don't have power, we don't have internet, we don't have water. It's like this is what I've been preparing for, man. I'm like, bring it. I'm ready to feed myself. Whatever. Like, take care of myself for a significantly longer period of time than this. I think it's pretty easy to be ready for a few days. You just gotta fucking do it.
Yeah, but again, like I said, one of the things I really liked about the Red Cross is we had blue sky and gray sky. So when the gray sky event happens, like Justin said, the time to prepare is over. So right now, if you're lucky enough to be in a place where you got nothing but blue skies, then today is the day to start your preparedness journey. We've got a lot of resources on the AmericanWarriorSociety.com. I wrote a 3 or 4 part series from a major disaster operation I worked. You can learn the lessons of what tended to kill people. I'm not saying what inconvenienced people, because think about it, Justin, 100, 125 years ago, all the people that you may have admired that are long since dead, whether they're political leaders or whoever they were, they didn't know what a hot shower was.
Right.
So forget all the niceties, man. We're human beings. We can live without that. But what's going to get you killed? What's going to hurt your family member? Justin and I have given you some very simple lessons today. I highly encourage you to share this show with someone you care about.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. We got some questions coming in. Johnny King says primitive survival is a foreign concept to this modern society. Yeah. Scott says off topic, but a quote from Justin Danger Carroll in your interview in May, quote, "If you're overweight, man, you got to get in shape. Diabetes is a chamber of horrors with all the things it does to your body," end quote. Thank you for that. Was working on it at the time and appreciated the kick in the butt to keep going. Blood work is back and the line now, and still working on getting in shape. Just wanted to say thank you.
Hell yeah, man. That is one of the most rewarding things I've, man. Yeah. If I don't know, me and you sitting here helps one person, man, that is so like just rewarding beyond words.
Yeah. So, again, please read Justin's blog. Be a Patreon member over there at swiftsilentdeadly.com. Justin does a lot of really amazing gear reviews that you're not going to get anywhere else from a guy who has been there, done that, and then some. Justin, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. Being a good friend, man.
And thank all y'all for watching.
All right, guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation, remember, it ain't just a fight coming. It could be a disaster coming. Make sure you be ready.